normal as it could be, all things considered. We were fortunately very built to go virtual. So when this happened, we were able to turn on a dime and really continue to get closings going smoothly. We've opened up our Fannie and Freddie lines and Ginnie Mae lines, and what that means in English, that enables us to keep a lot of loans in our books, which absolutely enable us to give better pricing and more aggressive pricing for conventional and FHA loans. So that's all translated into Atlantic actually having a record month in April, and thank you to many on this call for your support to get there. So the point is, there's a level of normalcy returning to the mortgage world. I mean, there's definitely still a divide with some pricing in the jumbo world, but things are coming back. We are closing. We are having no issues. We're working virtually. And the things you got to keep in mind from your perspective, I keep saying this every time I get on with you guys, is make sure your borrowers are working. We certainly will be checking employment status right up to the wire. If somebody loses a job, that could be very problematic. Till Horkenbach and I are getting ready to close a deal that we spent a lot of time restructuring because one of the spouses lost her job, and we had to restructure to make it work as it was. So sometimes you could save them, sometimes it's going to cost you the deal, but knowing these in advance is helpful. And well, it's only temporary does not fly, unfortunately. You know, nobody intends to be out of work long term, but if they don't have income, that's going to be a problem. We need to revisit that, but keep an eye on that. Questions. Also, rental income has been a question for some people as well. I'll be happy to go into that if somebody's got a specific question I can help with.
All right. Any questions for Scott? If not, we're going to move on to Chris Suarez. Anything for Scott?
Sir. Yep, I'll post my contact info in the chat area if anybody has any questions to follow up offline.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. You got it.
All right. So I sent around, we've emailed out, posted on social media. So you know Chris's credentials. He's one of the top agents in all of Keller Williams. The numbers are almost seem like, you know, you make them up when you talk about, you know, his Place Inc. In his partnership with Ben Kinney does over $1 billion. He does, I believe, over $200 million just on his own. He has market centers. He's got, you know, running, you know, stuff out in Costa Rica. Has his hands in everything. But I think rather than, you know, talking about introducing him based on the numbers, any of you guys, hopefully you can see this. Can you guys see this thing? This picture?
Yes.
So anybody who knows me knows I constantly talk about Patrick Lencioni and the hungry, humble, smart, and all that kind of stuff. And it's what our whole company is based on. And I think Chris is my favorite speaker. If I could get anyone to come and talk to you guys, it would be Chris, because I feel like literally he's sort of the embodiment of what Patrick Lencioni teaches. He's the one of, if not the most successful guy in the entire company. He's not named Gary Keller, yet he's the most humble, nicest, down-to-earth guy, you know, that you'll ever meet. You know, if you ever, sometimes you run into these guys, they're, you know, Grant Cardone kind of guy, yeah, let's 10X everything, and he's successful, but you kind of wouldn't want to have to be out to dinner with him. Chris is the exact opposite. Absolutely, Patrick Lencioni is my sort of guru for overall business, but Chris is my real estate mentor for sure. So I'm really excited to have him on, and he's got a great topic for us today. So I'll turn it over to Chris. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. I know how busy you are. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries, my friend. I appreciate your comments. And I don't go out to dinner a whole lot, so maybe that's why. But as much as anything, I you know, Al, when you reached out, you've been a huge support of our organization. And gosh, I guess we met a few years back. How many years ago was that when you put together one of your growth summits? That was probably one of the most well-run, put together events that I've ever been to. And what I left there knowing was, you know, your organization, and as I say your organization, I'm thinking about all the people that are on the call, have a leadership team that wakes up every single day fighting for their agents, and that's why I'm here, because when people ask me, like, what do you do and who are you, I'm a real estate agent. Like, I wake up every day and I check hot sheets just like I want every agent to check. And although I haven't gone out and sold a whole lot of homes lately, because my focus is running businesses around real estate, my heart is real estate, right? My heart is the buyer and the seller and the agent that's serving them. And so I've never broke that habit of waking up and checking hot sheets and staying connected with what really is working. My goal when I started our businesses was not like, how do I build something big? It really was just an absolute love of the industry. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but I think if you stay present in why we do what we do, and stay consistent in why we do what we do, we'll wake up one day and look around and say, hey, that consistency and that purpose is what ultimately builds a phenomenal business. You mentioned Patrick Lencioni, and he's going to be woven through actually some of this conversation. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I wonder if I can.
That's kind of interesting because I don't think you and I have ever even talked about that, but it's funny if you love his stuff too, because you definitely remind me of everything what he teaches.
Yeah, it's interesting. I listened to a recent interview with him, and he was talking about, and this is just a little bit off topic, but I'll jump in and share something. He was talking about leading through a time of uncertainty. And one of the things that he shared that I thought was most powerful, that leadership is not a job, it's a verb. And sometimes, and that goes to how we lead our people, it goes to how we lead organizations. And he said how we show up today, and this has sat with me over the last 60 days. Oftentimes in leadership and in running organizations, we kind of say, well, gosh, leadership is a thankless role or a thankless job. Like, we show up every day, we work hard for other people, and sometimes we don't necessarily believe that it's noticed or people remember. And the incredible opportunity that we all have right now is that that people remember leadership and how we show up last month, this month, next month, the month after, right? Longer than they've ever remembered leadership, right? The shelf life of our activities right now has an incredible shelf life. And I love that, right? We're oftentimes as agents as well, like let's take that off of leadership and just say, as real estate agents, anyone ever feel like, gosh, I just worked so hard for my client and they don't really understand everything that I jumped through, like all the hoops that I jumped through and everything that I did, it seems forgotten the day after closing. Well, I promise you, all of us have an opportunity to show up in a different way right now, and our buyers and sellers will remember us. So how we show up, the shelf life of leadership right now and our activities is such a great opportunity. The other thing he said is this, is if we could do one thing that will help us win, it's over communicating. Right, Al, I know that you're doing these consistently. And the fact is in the past, we might think, gosh, I wonder if they're hearing from me too much. Like, I wonder if they're like, oh gosh, it's Al again.
I think that's what they're all wondering right now, Chris.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll tell you, Al. Patrick Lencioni says that no one 6 months from today is going to go back and think, during COVID-19, like, I wish Al would have just stopped calling me. I wish Al would have stopped reaching out. Like, I wish Chris would have just like, we're good, right? Just like, we're good, leave me alone. What they will do is when they look at what we're doing versus what our competitors are doing or what other organizations are doing, or honestly, what other real estate agents are doing, they will say, gosh, I wish I would have heard from her more. I wish I would have heard from him more. Like, I didn't really get a whole lot of direction from leadership. Like, it is an absolute perfect time for us to show up differently, and people will remember that. So I think
we're definitely
critical.
seeing that here, Chris. I mean, we probably have, lately 20% of the people on these Zoom calls are from other companies huh, did I mute myself? I muted
Yeah.
myself. When we reach out to people at other companies, they're like, I haven't heard from my broker in 3 weeks. I don't know what the heck's going on. They tune in more to us to ask. They're asking us what's going on with PPP and unemployment because nobody's communicating with them at all. In fact, there was a funny email going around. Somebody sent an email to one of our agents. It's like, trying to recruit them and said, look at all the stuff we're doing. Every Friday we have a Zoom and we send out an email once a week. And the guy sent back our schedule. And it was like, we're doing 5 Zooms every day. We're doing all this stuff. And that company was touting like once a week getting together with people. So you're definitely right. I think if anything, we're hopefully achieving the over communication.
Yeah, and one of my partners, our my expansion partner in Phoenix, shared something just earlier this week with me, and the government and everybody around us is calling this social distancing, and the fact is it's anything but social distancing, right? It is physical distancing, but we are, as an organization, as a company, as teams, we are not social distancing. We are communicating more and at a higher level. So I think remember that. Don't allow social distancing to actually become that within your organizations and your teams. Leadership is communication right now, and that's a Patrick Lencioni thing. So what I wanted to share today, I'm going to share my screen, and you can tell me if you can see it. Can you see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Here's what I woke up about a month ago and realized. We as a industry, as an organization, kept on talking about surviving, right? Surviving. And about maybe 3 weeks ago, I was on a call with all of our top teams, and Ben Kinney and I, my partner, we have I think there was about 46, 47 business owners on that call. And every one of them has done about $1 million to $3 million in gross commission income over the previous 12 months. And here's what I heard as we kind of just did a check-in, like, where are you? How are you feeling? And consistently, right, I heard, well, gosh, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I looked around and I thought, gosh, what should I do? Like, where are we? What's going on? And then the next person, well, for the first 3 weeks, or for the first month, or for the first 2 weeks, or for the first, whatever that phase was, right? But then they said, but then I realized I have to work. Like I have to get back at it. And the minute I made that decision, guess what showed up? Transactions, like buyers and sellers and work. And what I realized at that moment was everything had to do with the day that we decided to turn on again and move from this word survival to thrive. Like we have talked for months about, hey, how are we going to survive? And I believe we need to move and start talking about how are we going to thrive. So let's look at those 2 words. On the screen in front of you, and I shared this with a group of people just yesterday for the first time. But on the screen in front of you is the definition of survive, right? It's a verb, but it means to continue to live or exist, especially in spite of danger or hardship. Guys, we are there. Like danger and hardship, it showed up. If we choose live or exist, well, you're in survival mode. But notice the difference between survival and thriving. What's the definition of thrive?
Grow or develop well or vigorously prosper, flourish.
Yeah, it means we're growing. It means we're developing. It means we're prospering. It means we're flourishing. It's still a verb. But the fact is, if we're not careful, we're going to get caught or stuck in survival, which means existence. And I don't know about you, but that's not enough. So what I did with my organization is I said, okay, well, what do we need to remember? Nelson Mandela was in prison for about 27 years, guys, 27 years. And at the end of that, when he got out of prison, there was a news reporter that was doing an interview with him. And they said, Mr. Mandela, like, how did you survive 27 years? Now, just think about yourself. Like, it's been 2 months. Some of us are wondering, how are we surviving 2 months of being in our house, right? Here's what his response was. It's on your screen. I wasn't surviving. I was preparing. I wasn't surviving. I was 27 years of preparing, not surviving. So how do we change that story? Like, how do we change our conversation? How do we change how we're showing up, right? Day in and day out? Here's how. I believe there's 5 things we can do. There are 5 specific things we can do to thrive. The first one is this: stop talking about changing your goal, right? There's lots of discussions right now about, gosh, here's my goal. Like, this is what I was going to do. I am personally, I'm going to say this as nice as I possibly can. I am personally tired of hearing the expression that, gosh, this was going to be my best year, right? I was on target for my best year. Like, this was the year that I was going to do, and fill in the blank. Guys, everybody is saying that. It could not have been everybody's best year ever. But see, our problem is this. If it wasn't COVID, then it would have been, man, if I didn't get sick, it was going to be my best year. Man, if the interest rates didn't do then it was going to be my best year. Like, we will always have a reason why it was going to be our best year, and now it's not. Don't use an unexpected challenge as an excuse for you not to show up just one more time. Don't change your goal. Don't change your goal. See, the only purpose of a goal is to set the activities necessary to hit those goals, right? Like, think about that just for a second. We use the GPS, right? Like, all of us have one, right? The 135 or GPS. But the only purpose of setting a goal is to set the activities necessary to hit that goal, right? Like, the goals are relevant unless we say, okay, here's my goal and this is what I'm going to do. So tell me, what about what just happened should have us reduce the activities that we're willing to do from this point forward? But that's what will happen if we reduce our goal. The goal is irrelevant. It's about the activities. I started looking at that, Al, and I said, okay, I'm going to share some real numbers with you. Across the board, our business is about 18% behind. This is my personal business, 18% behind where we thought we would be as of May 1st, 18%, right? Let's round it up and say it's 20%. Now, if I match what I did in the first third of the year, the second third of the year, and the third third of the year, where will I be at the end of the year? 60% behind goal, right? 20, it doesn't say 20. If I'm 20% behind in the second third and 20% behind in the third third, it's 60%. That's overwhelming, right? In fact, that just doesn't work to run a business. But here's what's so interesting. If I don't change my goal, and in fact, Gary says double lead gen, triple lead conversion, quadruple training. Like, there's nothing about reducing activities in that conversation. So why would we change our goal? Don't change your goal. Now, if I kept my goal the same, all I need to improve is 2.5% from this month forward. And guess what I make back? 20%. Don't convince yourself that an unexpected challenge is why you're not going to hit your goal. The goal is your activity. Here's what I told my team the other day. The goal informs the strategy. The strategy informs the activity. The activity informs my calendar, and my calendar informs my schedule. So look at your schedule. Has it changed? If so, then yes, your goal changed. But if we keep the same schedule, there's no reason to even think about our goal. So number 1, don't change the goal. Number 2, win the day. Win the day. Like, if we're going to win any game, you have to start with knowing the rules. Every single game has rules, yes? Every single game has a starting time and an ending time. Every single game has certain activities or moves that are allowed. Every single game has a coach and trainers. Every single game has a scoreboard. Every single game has a winner or a loser. So what are the rules of your game? Every single day, what's my starting time? What's my ending time? What's the activities that are allowed? Who's my coach and who's my trainer? Where is the scoreboard? Did I win or did I lose? Win the day. For me, I think this is our biggest challenge right now. Some of us can be on Zooms or working for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours because our work life is in our home life. Like we go from homeschooling to being a doctor, to being a cook, to being a laundry person, to making some phone calls, to email. Like it is, you can end the day and wonder, did I win? So what are the rules of your day? If you do not have rules to your day, you can't win the day, just like if you don't follow rules of a game. I'm going to give you 3 questions that I've been asking. Right? And these questions came up. I wrote these in my journal because I for week 1 and week 2 in March, I got super frustrated. I was exhausted. I was working more hours than I had ever worked, and I wasn't feeling like I was moving the needle. Anyone feel that way in the last 2 months? Have a day like that, a week like that? Maybe we had a month like that.
Yep.
And I started asking myself why I felt that way. And it was because I wasn't asking myself this question. I wake up every single morning, and in my journal, I write the question, what can I do today? What could I do? And I write down, what are all the things I could do? Right after that, I write down, what will I do? Now, those 2 things are wildly different, guys, right? What can I do is clarity. Like, what are all the things I could do today? Like, I could do nothing, right? I could watch daytime TV, right? I could go for a walk. Like, I could do all these things. Now, what will I do? That's commitment. I'm going to commit to myself what I will do today that will move the needle. And at the end of the day, you know what I ask? What did I do? Now, sometimes we're good with question 1 and 2. We just don't like to ask question 3. What can I do? What will I do? What did I do? Those 3 questions allows me to ask myself or answer the question, did I win the day? This reminded me of one of my favorite laws in business. Many of you know this law. It's the law of the farm, right? This is the Covey law. It's the basic unit of success, the day. Now, this one hits home because as many of you know me, like I am a city person through and through, right? I was born in New York City. I was raised in New York. Like I'm a city person. And I literally just bought a farm, right? Back in December, I went out and I literally bought a farm. I bought a small vineyard and farm, and people think I'm going through midlife. I promise you I'm not. But here's why this hit home. Here's the law of the farm, guys, in business. The law of the farm says this: a farmer has to show up every single day. What happens if a farmer doesn't show up every day?
His crops die?
Nothing. You're right. Nothing happens. Like they're not going to grow anything. See, a farmer can't take 2 weeks off. A farmer can't plant seeds and then say, you know what? Man, I worked hard. I had a good week. I'm going to take a couple weeks off. And then come back and say, gosh, I'm ready to go. I have my energy. Now let's cram. There's no such thing as cramming on a farm. Like they wake up the same time every day and they go to work in the field every day. There is no way that they can cram 2 days of work into 1 day of work because they skipped a day. It just doesn't work that way. And yet it doesn't for us either. And we've convinced ourselves that it does. In agriculture, we can easily see and agree that natural laws and principles govern the work and determine the harvest. But in social and corporate structures like we kind of run, we somehow think we can dismiss that natural process, cheat the system, and still win the day. We can't. We can't. We have to win the day. We don't get to skip a day and make some extra calls tomorrow. It just doesn't work that way, even if we convince ourselves that it does. And here's why I know that. Because if we skip our lead gen today, then there is a day 31 days from now, 45 days from now, 90 days from now, that there is not a new client in your database, right? If winning the day means you added 1 person to the database, you cultivated 1 lead in your database, you talked to 1 future buyer, future seller, immediate buyer, immediate seller, then there is a day somewhere in the future that you won't have anything. Earl Nightingale said, success comes not from sudden sporadic bursts of activity, but through the cumulative effort of disciplined daily effort. But who are we? As entrepreneurs, what do we love? Oh, we love sudden sporadic bursts of energy. Like I have never seen an industry with such ups and downs and ups and downs. And that's only because no one is holding us accountable to winning the day. Fair?
Yeah.
Number
Where did that
two,
come from, win the day, by the way? Like that, when I first started out, I coached with Brian Buffini, and that's what he always talked about. Is that like an old concept or old saying?
it came from Earl Nightingale.
Oh, it came from
Because Earl Nightingale, old tapes of Earl Nightingale, you'll listen, and the quote is, the basic unit of success is the day, right? All success comes down to the day. And that's why Brian Buffini said, well, go out and win the day. Like, right, well, we're going to get to that, I think. Most motivational speakers will try to get us all charged up for the day. Here's why. Because they don't understand motivation. Motivation truly is not going to come from a Zoom call, is not going to come from an hour with someone. That's excitement, guys, right? We're super excited and then we're not. Like, with that said, we can trick ourselves into success by getting pumped up and excited for the day. And I think that's why you hear that expression, like win the day, because you certainly aren't going to be able to maintain that excitement for the week. But here's the deal. If we truly understand motivation, I believe that you can win the week. In our organization, we use the expression win the week, win the week, win the week, because we can only maintain effort for an entire week if we have true motivation. I'll share something that we've been doing. A lot of our team leads and a lot of our leadership has been going back to the original CV packets of our people, right? If we hired the right way, we went through a process called the motivational interview. And during the motivational interview, we found out ultimately why people do what they do. And at times in crisis, we need to remember why we do what we do. Motivation isn't excitement. Motivation is true core purpose. The law of the farm only shows up, like a farmer can't be excited. Man, they produce corn every single year for 40 years. There's not a whole lot of excitement in their world, but they're highly motivated by providing a better future for their family than they had the year before and the year before and the year before. So the basic unit of success is the day, but that's because if we don't show up day in and day out based on motivation for the future, we just won't show up.
Makes sense.
3, I believe we need to go out and learn something new every single day. And here's why. Because first, it takes humility to admit that we need to learn something new. Many of us are learning, like the industry is forcing us to learn something new every day. But here's what I know as human beings, we are designed to want to grow. And some of our biggest struggle and our stress right now is we feel stuck. Anyone feel stuck? Like we feel stuck. We feel like we can't grow. We feel like we're in this moment of time where things are on pause. It is important that we wake up every day and learn something new. Now that's as simple as making sure you read every day, right? It's no secret. I read a book every single week. That is how I learn something new every day, right? That is 52 books a year. But here's why I do that. I love reading, but I also know that we were designed to grow. And growth will happen in a natural way or in an unnatural way. This isn't a real popular analogy, but it is truth. Every single cell in our bodies has a drive for life and growth. Every single cell in our bodies actually wants to make something bigger of itself. Every single human being, I know for a fact, all of us want to be better tomorrow than we were today. I know that because it's a natural part of being a human. But here's what happens to our cells when they are cut off from the brain. what you're looking at on your screen is a cancer cell. A cancer cell actually is a cell that's cut off from the organism or communication, and it begins to try to repair itself, guys. But it can't, because it's not communicating with our brain. So it just begins to do what? It begins to proliferate. A skin cell can literally turn itself into a tumor. Humans are no different. Humans are different. The malignancy in the cell comes from being cut off, and that cell looking for identity and growth. Right now, more than ever, it's super important that we plug in. Like, there is no better place to find ourselves than within the organization of Keller Williams. Why? Because we are a growth company. Fair? Think about most tragedy, right? When we see tragic events show up and we think, how did a human being just do that? And you go deep into that, that human being unplugged from society, right? They unplugged from healthy relationships. Like, it's important that we stay plugged in into an environment of growth, because if not, we're going to grow in a natural way or in an unnatural way. That to me is incredibly telling. If I stop growing, that's when negative thoughts come in. That's when, gosh, is it me? It is important that we learn something new every day. The interesting thing is that's easy around here, right? There's no lack of growth opportunity. So create, architect, or plug into an environment that allows us to grow every day. Number 4, play the long game. Listen, remember, these are the 3, right? These are the 5 to thrive. We're on number 4, and one of the most critical steps of thriving is playing the long game. Why is playing the long game so hard right now? What do you think?
Anybody want to jump in and help and make this a little more interactive? Anybody have an idea?
Because we don't know how far that long game is going to go. We don't have an end in sight. We don't have a date.
Exactly.
Because it's harder today to see the future than it was even yesterday, wasn't it? Or isn't it?
Especially.
Here's what I know. The winner is always the one that sees the future. Here's what's interesting. I put this course together about 30 days ago for our organization. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, it could have been the day before. Al, you and I spent about 6 hours with Gary yesterday. The day before, I spent another 6 hours with Gary. And in one of those 2 days, he talked about chess. And the grand masters of chess don't see 1 move ahead, 2 moves ahead, 4 moves ahead, 7 moves ahead, 9 moves ahead. Grand masters in chess see 10 to 12 moves ahead. Guys, that's incredible, right? I love chess, but I see about 2 moves ahead, right? We have to be able to determine where we are, where we're going, and understand where the world is going as well. The reason why that's difficult right now is because business demands we make decisions for today and this week. Our challenge, right? Survival is about today, isn't it? Survival is about this week, isn't it? Survival is about maybe this month, isn't it? And yes, it's important that we're making decisions month over month over month, because things are changing rapidly. However, if we lose touch with the fact that we're playing the long game, we're in trouble, because the organizations and the businesses that are playing the long game will win. Our entire discussion for 6 hours, right? You're all fortunate that you have a local leader on the ground there that is seeing not a month ahead, not a year ahead. We're looking 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead, because we always have to be playing the long game. The reason why that's difficult is delayed gratification. What's delayed gratification?
Anybody?
Yeah. You have to wait to get what you want. You can't get it right away.
Is that easy? Thank
No.
you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Why isn't that easy?
Well, we like to get it right away.
Because we are accustomed to. In so many areas of our life, like we want something and we get it. Like technology has screwed up delayed gratification for us. Now, what's interesting is I believe delayed gratification is one of the most critical skill sets and a dividing line between people that are successful and those that are not. Right now, our struggle is we mentioned it earlier, we're going from calls to texts to emails to homework to virtual showings to cutting budgets to on hold with the cable company to cut that too, back to emails. We're researching how to get a PPP loan. We're grabbing something out of the oven before it burns. We're hopping on a Zoom, back to homework, folding laundry, answering voicemail. And we end the day and we're like, what just happened? And some of us are giving up because we don't see an immediate return. We don't see the listing appointment that we're driving to tomorrow. But what we do now will determine what shows up in the third and fourth quarters of 2020 and the first quarter of 2021. Here's what I know. Our country is going to sell a very similar number of homes that we sell every darn year. We always do. Look at your marketplace. Look at how many homes went pending this week alone. I promise you, more than any one of you can handle. Like you cannot handle all the business that is out there, but because the business didn't show up today, we convince ourselves that what we're doing isn't working or isn't worth it. Remember, the reason that's hard to internalize is we all want instant gratification. Some of us, I blame our parents, right? I blame our parents because we asked for something and we got it. I want that, here you go. Like, I will tell you, the greatest gift my parents gave me was delayed gratification. I am still waiting for stuff that I asked for when I was 5 and 6 and 7. Man, the answer in my life was no, always. Like, it wasn't delayed gratification. It just never showed up. But the interesting thing is I'm good with that. In the moment, I didn't understand that it was probably teaching me one of my greatest skills, like delayed gratification. I'm good with it.
Chris, that's a really interesting concept and topic. Have you heard of the Marshmallow study that they did for delayed gratification?
This one?
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So here, we're going to get there. Here's what Charles Duhigg, another behavioral psychologist. So Marshmallow study was done by Walter Mischel in Stanford in the 70s. Charles Duhigg is a more current, more present, right? Today, he continues to write and actually practice. He wrote a book on habits, titled Habits. And he said this: the basis of every bad habit is instant gratification. Think about it. You don't have to say what your bad habits are, but I promise you, every bad habit is tied to instant gratification. Sleeping in, that's instant gratification. Some of you hit the snooze button like 12 times this morning. Why? Because you instantly wanted to gratify your desire to just stay on the pillow. And you know what? The fact is all of us would without some real accountability. I have a workout partner every single day. And here's why: because I will show up for them more than I'll show up for myself, actually, right? Like every single morning. Why? To break the bad habit of instantly gratifying myself by sleeping in. Eating bad, let's be honest, that's all about instant gratification. It tastes so good going down, doesn't it? We don't feel good after we ate that pizza or all those cookies, but it tastes amazing at the moment. TV, that's all about instant gratification. I just need to so you turn on the TV, instantly gratifying your desire for entertainment. Social media is all about instant gratification. That's the problem. We post something and what do? We're checking. Did people comment? Do people like it? Like, listen, what does it matter? Instant gratification. Social media is killing us. Now, the basis of all good habits is actually learned delayed gratification. Think about it. Eating healthy, does it give you immediate gratification? Most of us know, but over the long term, what happens? We feel better, we're healthier, we exercise. There's no immediate gratification in exercise for most of us unless we love pain. Reading, like for some of us, reading is tough, but the delayed gratification of the education we get over the course of months or years, it is your competitive advantage. Behavioral psychologists have studied this for mankind's entire history. Al says, hey, what about that marshmallow test? Which means Al understands what the whole purpose of that test taught us. Now, it's a funny test, right? Walter Mischel at Stanford University in the 70s brought a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds into the game room at the Bing nursery there in Stanford. And this is what he said. It's called the marshmallow test, but what's interesting is the kids got to choose out of a bunch of treats. Some were marshmallows, some were M&Ms, there was Oreo cookies there, and they said, hey, what's your favorite? And they said, okay, great, Oreo cookie, here's one. And they said, listen, I'm gonna leave the room. You can eat the cookie anytime you want, or the marshmallow anytime you want, but if you don't eat it, when I come back in, I will give you 2. Well, what do you think happened, right? Researcher walks out of the room, and some kids, second they're gone, they shove that marshmallow into their mouth. Now they videoed this, and that's why this is one of the most well-known studies of psychology, because it's hilarious to watch, right? Watch it on your off time, not during your lead gen time, but they're the cutest videos you'll ever see. Some kids, right? They looked at the marshmallow, they looked away, they looked at the marshmallow, they looked away, and before you knew it, they grabbed it and they ate it. There were other kids that they were able to wait the 15 minutes. How do they do it? That's a whole nother conversation, but it was a study of focus. They played with their fingers and watched their fingers. They sang and hummed songs. They just closed their eyes and focused on something else. So they didn't focus on immediate gratification. Now, here's the amazing thing about this study. Other than the videos are just hilarious. As the years went on and the kids grew up, those researchers brought those kids back in and they conducted follow-up studies. They tracked those kids' progress. The children who were able to delay their gratification and waited to receive that second marshmallow or second cookie or those 5 extra M&Ms, guess what? They had higher SAT scores. They had lower levels of substance abuse. They had lower likelihood of obesity. They had better responses to stress. They had better social skills as reported by their parents and teachers. In other words, series of experiments proved that the ability to delay gratification was a critical step in success in life. Guys, I know we're real estate agents, but if you're a parent, understand one of the greatest things you could teach your kids right now is delayed gratification. Be careful. See, many of us came from a generation that didn't have a whole lot. And so because we do now, we think, oh, I just want to give my kids what I couldn't have. I will promise you, right? I deprive my kids of, I don't deprive them, but I will force them to wait for stuff. They want colored pencils. Sure, put it in the Amazon cart, but don't buy it. You want to talk about it tomorrow? Awesome. You see them? Do you want them? Awesome. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's talk about it tomorrow. I have had some art supplies in that Amazon cart for like 3 weeks. Why? Truly, it is because as a parent, I am teaching delayed gratification. Welcome to real estate. One of the most important things for us to realize is we are going through an extended period of delayed gratification. It is making us stronger. Those who do not eat the marshmallow, which means get distracted or stop our lead gen or go watch TV in the middle of the day, or the fact is delayed gratification is one of the most important things. Now, the brain studies that they did were shocking. And understanding at a whole nother level that their brains, high delayers activated circuits in their prefrontal cortex that actually controlled their thoughts and their actions. What was happening when they scanned those brains, their prefrontal cortex was incredibly active, which means we can train our prefrontal cortex to say no to impulse. Some of us, man, we don't have a prefrontal cortex that fires very quickly. We say yes to every impulse. That's okay today. Now we recognize that one of our greatest skills to develop is that. So find ways to build delayed gratification. They did the same study in American eighth graders. And here's what they found. They offered this group of American eighth graders in LA, Los Angeles, $5 today, or come back a week from today and I'll give you $10. Guess what? The majority of people took $5 today instead of $10, right, a week from today. Interesting. Now, you know what happened? When they looked at that, the likelihood of them taking $10 later versus $5 today had a more direct correlation with their grade point average than their IQ. In other words, their skill in delayed gratification was more important to their grade point average than their IQ. Guys, we need to play the long game. We need to play the long game. And right now, our business feels super linear, right? Some of us, this was our year of growth. Like, we love fast growth. We like big growth, and we don't like linear activities. The fact is we're doing a lot of linear activities right now. We're doing a lot of activities that might not show up as instant gratifying because we got the appointment, we got the listing, we turned it into GCI. But I promise you, if you play the long game, you will win. One of my favorite leaders is Churchill. He says that success is not final, right? So you may have been successful up to this point. Well, that's not final. Failure isn't fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. There's some lessons that we can learn. Stephen Mansfield wrote an awesome book. In fact, the book was written about 10 years ago. I read it about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but it's shown back up. And this is because he wrote a book about Churchill around this topic of how do we lead in crisis? Well, man, 6 years ago when he wrote that book, little did he know we were all going to need to learn lessons in leading through crisis. But here's one story I want to tell you from that book. We have to have a bias towards action. So look at your calendar and ask yourself, did I have a bias towards action, right? Do I have a bias towards action? Did I have a bias towards action last week, the week before that? And if not, just look at your schedule for next week and make sure you have a bias towards action. At times, and here's the takeaway, what Churchill said is sometimes it's symbolic action. Sometimes we're going to feel like we're going through the motions. Sometimes we just need to show up, put a shirt on, put some real pants on, sit in front of your computer, whether people see you or not, and take symbolic action. Here's one example. When Nazi bombers came to bomb London, everybody was supposed to go where? Like down to the bunkers, right? There are bombers bombing the city. Go to the bunker to survive. But there are countless reports and stories and pictures of Churchill going up to his rooftop with a revolver shooting at the bomber. Now, I will tell you, he wasn't going to take the bomber down with a revolver. But what he said was it was symbolic action. It proved to himself and the people around him that he had a bias towards action, that he was going to win, that he was going to get things done. Do you have a bias towards action? If you do, that's an immediate decision, but it's playing the long game. It was not going to win the war. It was not going to take down that bomber, but it was going to win the war in his mind because he was playing the long game. Fair?
Yep.
Number 5, last one. And this is an interesting one, because we just said have a bias towards action. And I believe the 5th thing we need to do right now in order to thrive is be still. Many of you have heard me share Ryan Holiday's book, Stillness is the Key. One of my favorite books of 2019. In fact, a good friend gifted me that book, and I thought, well, what is he trying to tell me? I am in constant motion, right? That is something I am working on. But in Ryan Holiday's new book, he says this, that life is too short to work for any period of time to get to a place where you don't get to do what you want to do. Figure out how to do what you want to do today. The problem is sometimes we don't slow down enough to figure that out. So at this moment, in order to thrive, we need to be still. He tells a story in Greek mythology, and actually that subject never really interested me in school, so I'm not really good with the Greek gods and all that. But here's what he shared. He said there was a Greek god named Pan, and Pan possessed an incredibly loud voice, so that when ancient Greek gods were battling a horde of giants, they would call Pan, and they'd bring in Pan as backup. And Pan's voice and his shout and his yell was so overwhelmingly loud that it instilled fear in all the gods' opponents. And those opponents, those giants would run away. Our English word panic comes from that Greek word and that Greek god's name, Pan. I'll tell you guys, there's a lot of noise in our industry right now. There's a lot of noise in the media right now. There's a lot of noise everywhere right now. And what happens when things are noisy? Panic. See, sometimes we think that, gosh, I don't want to slow down. I don't want to take this moment because we think that stillness is weakness. Ryan Holiday in his book says stillness is not the absence of strength. Stillness is the expression of strength. The book is really built on these tenets of Stoic philosophy. And Stoic philosophy says this: the purpose of stillness is to get really clear about what we control. So interestingly enough, I believe that every single one of us needs a little bit of white space in our day, right? Yeah, we need a bias towards action. But if we're going to thrive, we need to be still. We need to be still and truly understand what is it that I can control today. Towards the end of that book, he shares an analogy, and he actually talks about a master archer. I'm not going to try to say his name because I can't pronounce it, but this master archer. And in archery, they teach a concept called willful will. Willful will. Now, they say that in archery, if you try too hard, that you will literally try to exert your will past its benefit, and you will absolutely fail. So think about that, right? I don't know if you've ever, like in high school, we had to take archery, right? And you bring that arrow back and you let go. And as it's going through the air, you find yourself like leaning towards one side because you're trying to will that arrow towards the target. Or I didn't have video games growing up, so I don't play them. But if I do now as an adult, I'm that guy. Like I'm like moving with the car. Like that's ridiculous. My movement does not control the movement of that car. My leaning doesn't control the direction of the arrow. And so they used that analogy and they said, listen, there are certain things that archer controls. That archer controls what time he went to bed last night, or what time she woke up in the morning, what she or he ate for breakfast, the practice that they did prior to stepping up to the target. They control how they lifted up the bow and pulled back the arrow, and how they aimed it at the target, and literally how they let go of that arrow. But the minute the arrow is let go, do that. Let go. See, I control nothing after that fact. Stop trying to control things that we don't control. Today, we need to be still and understand that there are certain things that we control. It's funny to me, as real estate agents, I see most agents trying to control things they don't control and not exerting their will and their power and their energy over things they can control. These are the 5 things we need to do to thrive. Don't change your goal, right? Because your goal dictates your activity and your schedule and your day, which allows you to do what? Go out and win the day. Know the rules of your game. Each of our days might look different based on our goal, but win the day. Every single day, learn something new. Why? Because it'll keep us humble, and it will fuel our natural need for growth as a human being. Number 4, and help us thrive. Number 4, play the long game. We are in a moment where we need to make decisions for today and this week and this month, every single day and every single week and every single month. But do not lose sight of the long game. Think about that master, right, chess player. 10 to 12 moves ahead. Play the long game, or put yourself in an environment where you know we're playing the long game. And number 5, be still. Understand what we control and what we don't control. There's probably no better quote to end this topic on, and then Al, you can ask anything you want. But Maya Angelou says this: surviving, yeah, it's important. Right? Surviving is important. We all need to. We all want every single one of our agents and our people to survive. Surviving is important, but thriving is elegant. There's a difference, guys. Don't get caught convincing yourself that you just need to sit here and survive. Sit here and survive. We want every single one of our agents on the other side of this and right now to be thriving. Cool?
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Chris, are you still adding people to your expansion team? If somebody wanted to, find out what it would be like to affiliate with your group, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can reach out directly. We're highly selective. So I hesitate to answer that question with a yes, Al. We have learned some things about right what we do and who we serve incredibly well. But I will share this. I believe that if the business is not growing, it is dying. And my intention is not to die. My intention is to live and to thrive. So that means we're growing. We'll bring on 4 partners in May, all who have done a million in GCI or greater. But with that said, I believe my real passion, and not to take away from those partners, because I love them dearly, but my real passion is to connect with those agents that say, well, gosh, I'm just not there yet. Here's my definition of leadership, and this will decide whether or not someone is a good fit or not. My definition of leadership, my obligation to my partners is this: leadership is bringing someone down a path to their preferred future. All of us have a preferred future. Like if we didn't, we wouldn't be here. Like we'd be sitting somewhere, we'd be doing something else. We have to understand what our preferred future is. And then my partner and I decide whether or not we believe that our path, my path, our organization's path, this place will bring them down that path to their preferred future. That preferred future looks different. For some, it's a massively big business. Awesome. For others, it's honestly no growth in production or GCI. It's a growth in an experiential life or time off, or like I'm good either way. Growth doesn't mean massively big business to everybody, but I believe that once we figure out what our preferred future is, then it's up to us to plug in and say, hey, this is the path. For me, KW is that path. That's why I'm here. Like I have a massively big business within a business model. I am a partner, right? I receive incredible value from this organization because Gary and KW provide a path to my preferred future. That's what partnership is all about. So once people are clear about their preferred future, the conversations we bring people down is whether or not our path will bring them to their preferred future. Cool?
Yeah, cool. What about place? Like, is that different from the expansion team? Is that anything you'd want to talk about at all, just so people can understand if it's something they'd be interested in?
Yeah, here's what place is. For those of you, many of you know, I ran and started an expansion organization about 6 years ago. Ben Kinney started an organization, expansion organization about 10 years ago. Last year, his organization was #1 in production, and our organization was #2 in production. Ben and I have been friends for 5, 6, 7 years, and have really been masterminding together. And really, I look at him as a thought partner. About 3 years ago, we recognized that Gary challenged our group and said, listen, you guys are not changing the industry. You're just doing a lot of the same, right? You're running real estate teams. We believe that our industry has the ability to create business owners, not real estate teams or real estate agents. So what we needed to do was reinvent how everybody looked at us and stopped looking at us as a real estate agent or real estate team, but rather as a real estate business. He challenged challenged us to act like, right, act like a Compass, act like a Redfin, right, act like a company. And that's what Ben and I set out to do, to create a platform that an agent can plug into for all things business, whether it be title or mortgage or insurance or lead gen or marketing or whatever that is for them and their business, investing opportunities. So Place actually became our true partnership of a brand new expansion platform. So Experience and BKCO, which was Ben Kinney Companies, really went away and they gave birth, if you will. That's probably a terrible example, but Ben and like Ben Kinney Companies and Experience gave birth to Place, which to your point showed up on day one as a business that had done a $1.5 billion of volume and 40 million in revenue. All of a sudden, our expansion organization combined to have 50 of the top agents in the country as part of it, and created a collaborative environment of systems, models, tools, and partnership. So, happy to talk one-on-one or in a group about it, but that's the quick overview of what we did and why we did it. All underneath the KW umbrella.
Awesome. Well, if anybody wants more information about that, just, let me know and I can get you contact info to reach out to somebody at Place. All right. Anybody, we're a little bit over time, but we probably have time. Do you have time for a couple questions? If you have some questions, Chris?
Sure, if someone wants me to. Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Does anybody raise their hand with the question? I can unmute you. Anybody? No. Actually, one of the questions that we keep getting, Chris, is, if you have any tips on doing business in this environment, anything, specific you're doing differently with, virtual showings, or, how is your business of the folks that are on the ground on your team, change, and are there any like best practices you could recommend?
Yeah. In fact, Al, I'll shoot you a link to a recorded video on specifically how we're doing that. Here's what I'll share about that. Is we have incredible tools and outlines of how to do that well, both on KW Live right now. If you go to KW Connect and search virtual open, you will see step by step. But I know this, that if our databases aren't growing, they are shrinking just naturally. Like, we think they're not shrinking, but people die, people move, their brother, sister, mother, father, best friend just became a real estate agent, right? Our databases are shrinking unless we're adding to them. Now, for the last few years, we've been complaining that other people are stepping into our industry and taking our buyers. We've been complaining that people could go on Zillow, click show me a home, and instantly some agent that's willing to get paid nothing shows up at the door and opens it up. People did that with Zillow. People did that with Open Door, right? The fact is those companies were taking our customers and clients. But guess what? Every one of those options right now has been disabled. Why? Because they're not allowed to operate. And their platform isn't a platform of consultation. Their platform was a platform of convenience. Guys, it's time to take back our industry and convince buyers and sellers that we are consultants. So what I know is this: the level of attendance at our virtual events, whether that be virtual buyer consultations, virtual listing presentations, virtual open houses. We are doing buyer classes and seller classes, all online, all through Eventbrite links, all posted, right? We're using command and advertising them on Facebook, or using third-party sites and advertising those open houses virtually. All they do is click on an Eventbrite, which gives them a Zoom link, and guess who's there? Me, like John, like any one of our agents. And on one side is a 3D walkthrough of the home. And on the other side is me. Like, we are literally face-to-face walking through the home room by room. And we're doing a one-on-one consultation after. So specifically and strategically, we'll send out a video of how to do that. But I'll share one thing. This last month, we double-sided 4 listings in Portland, specifically through virtual opens. Now, we haven't double-sided 4 listings in a long time. Like, I'm embarrassed to tell you that, but we just don't do it well. Why? Because the Redfins and the Zillows and all these other companies that were taking our buyers were there taking our buyers. And the only difference is we're one of the few people showing up doing that. Buyers are still out there buying. Look at your pendings. So it's a perfect opportunity for us to step in and fill a need and a want of buyers. I believe that buyers will buy differently moving forward. I am thrilled. Like, the reality is, I think we will always, moving forward, show 5, 6, or 7 homes digitally to a buyer, just like this, before putting them in the car. This situation didn't change our industry. It just accelerated our industry. It will make us more efficient. We will all make more money per hour in the future, as long as we learn something new every day, like understand how to operate business in this new environment. So top of funnel has not changed for us. We are continuing to do those opens because we need new buyers, future buyers, or obviously immediate buyers through those virtual events.
All right. Well, we need to wrap it up, but maybe I think we have 1 or 2 questions, quick questions. Robin, you have a question? And then Oscar.
Hi, yes, nice to meet you, Oscar.
Go ahead, Robin. Did you have a question?
Yeah, 1 second. I thought I was muted there for a minute. My question is that you had mentioned that you have to be able to see far in advance, stay, a few steps ahead. I feel that a lot of real estate agents are in a panic mode right now, but what I'm seeing, what I see is that I don't feel like the housing market is going to crash or anything like that. I think that it's actually going to take off in a lot of different areas, because due to what's happening in the world today, a lot of people who live in like condos and apartments with families are going to want to move to, homes with like backyards so their children can, have an outdoor space should this occur again. And with that being said, I think that the housing market is going to take off instead of crashing. But I feel that some of the realtors are just like, they don't see that, and like they're maybe a little panicky right now. So I just wanted to find out your opinion on that.
I don't have any different opinion than you on that. But I also think that the only thing I would add is that does mean that in those, like, if people are moving from there, understand that means those need to be sold. Like, it doesn't matter what market, there's going to be an opportunity in that market. I think a lot of the communities that you serve actually will see increases in value, because people will be moving from vertical living and condos to homes for sure. But interestingly enough, with interest rates the way they are and home becoming more important, first time buyers are more active as well. So I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think that data drives decisions, and that's all I'll share with you. Like, we need to know that data, because data will help our people make decisions, as well as us in how to see the future, or where to double down, or where to focus our attention, what segments of the market to focus our attention based on where we live or where we're at.
All right. Thank you, Robin. Chris, last question. Oscar, did you have a question? Something about motivation in there?
I just wanted to say thank you, Chris, again, for everything that you do for us.
Awesome. My pleasure, my friend.
More of a thank you than a question. Awesome. And then the last thing is, people are asking where to get that video that you mentioned.
I will have someone in my organization. I'll send it to you, and then you can get it out to however.
Awesome. All right,
Cool.
great.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much, Chris. We really appreciate you taking time today, and this was really awesome. Very, very motivating as usual. Thank you so much, and we owe you anything we can do.
My pleasure.
No.
Thanks for being who you are in the industry, Al.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.